Hey everyone, it's AOC, and student loan payments are starting on October 1st. I know. However, I've been getting a ton of questions from you all about it, and we decided to put together a multi-video guide to walk you through all things student loans, from how did we get here and where are we at politically, how can we organize, to how do you make a payment. Did you know that you might even be eligible for cancellation and not know it? How can you reduce or even eliminate your student loan payment, and more? So follow with us. We have a multi-part video guide. We're making a playlist. It's uploading now, and let's get into it. All right, so what is going on with student loan forgiveness and where are we at with the program? In order to explain that, we need to do a quick recap about how we got here and a little bit about the history. Last August, in August of 2022, the Biden administration, after years of grassroots organizing, finally announced that we would pursue a student loan forgiveness program alongside the Department of Education. The legal authority that the president announced that he would use would be the COVID-era HEROES Act. Now, that will be a detail that will come into play later. Under the Biden original program, up to $20,000 of student loan forgiveness could be pursued by any American that makes less than $125,000 per year who also holds public student loans. In October of 2022, just a few months later, applications for student loans went live, and a couple of lucky people even had their applications processed and their debt forgiven until Republicans filed a lawsuit. Now, that lawsuit took about a year to make its way all the way up to the Supreme Court. And in July of this year, our right-wing Supreme Court overturned the Biden student loan forgiveness program.
That's a bunch of malarkey.
Now, what they didn't mention in their opinions was the fact that they were palling around and partying and going on vacation with private jets with billionaires and attorneys who were associated with the right-wing effort on the courts. Now, that is a problem for later, but Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito are directly ethically implicated in a lot of the rulings that have been coming down, and that has created, frankly, a different legal crisis for the country. But let's get back to the loan point. Now, luckily, progressives in Congress were prepared for the possibility that the Supreme Court might overturn the Biden loan program. And what we did was that we prepared and made an argument to the Biden administration that we could continue with student loan cancellation using a different legal authority. Instead of that HEROES Act authority that I mentioned earlier, we had always argued that the Higher Education Act is the proper legal vehicle to continue and pursue student loan forgiveness for millions of Americans. Now, the good news is that a lot of that advocacy worked, and almost immediately after the Supreme Court issued their ruling, the Biden administration announced their plan to continue to pursue student loan cancellation using the alternative legal authority under the Higher Education Act. The program would still cancel up to $20,000 of student loan debt, but it would take up to a year for the program to roll out. In addition, the Biden administration also announced different and new changes to repayment programs to make payments more accessible and more affordable for everyday people. So where does that leave us? Number one, payments are restarting October 1st, and you can thank a Republican for that. But aside from that, this date is not going to change. It's not like previous dates. This payment restart date is in the law. So count on repayment starting on October 1st. Number two, we are pursuing action regarding the egregious ethics breaches at the Supreme Court, but that is a separate topic that we can talk to you about later. And number three, political organizing and activism around student loans are continuing to happen, and we encourage you to check out our partners at places like Debt Collective to learn more. Now, next up, you might actually be eligible for student loan cancellation, totally separate from the Biden administration, and you might not even know it. So we're going to get into that next. All right, now you might actually be eligible for student loan cancellation and not even know it. And that is in addition to or separate from the recent Biden administration announced program. So let's get into it. While President Biden's plan to cancel up to $20,000 in student loan debt may take up to another year to finalize, there are actually 4 other student loan cancellation programs that you should be aware of. Number one is the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. You can use this program if you have a direct loan and if you work for the government or a nonprofit employer. To receive this forgiveness, you need to switch over to an income-based repayment program. And you can find a list of those under studentaid.gov under loan repayment. The Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program usually takes about 10 years worth of repayments on an income-based level in order to qualify, but lots of professions qualify for this, including teachers, medical professionals, social workers, and more. Number 2 is the Teacher Loan Forgiveness Program. If you teach for up to 5 consecutive years in a low-income school district, you can get up to $17,500 in loans forgiven. And if you're a teacher eligible for this program, it does not preclude you from the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. So you can actually stack those cancellation programs on top of each other if you're a teacher in a low-income district. A third and lesser known program is actually the Disability Discharge Program. If you are assessed by a medical professional to be permanently disabled, you can also apply to have your student loans forgiven. So make sure that you look into that program and see if you're eligible. And the fourth are income-driven loan forgiveness programs. If you are on an income-driven repayment program, your loans can be automatically forgiven after up to 20 to 25 years of payments. And so a lot of people are actually eligible for this, and make sure to check that your payments are being wiped away. Some payment processors make a mistake and continue assessing for your payments. So please make sure if you are 20 to 25 years into payments that your payments are being forgiven if you're on an income-driven repayment program. Federal student loans can also be discharged in 2 other cases. One, if your college closed while you were attending that school or right before you graduated that school, your loans could be canceled. And in addition to that, there's something known as the borrower defense discharge. And that is for instances where colleges misled students and those students took out loans in order to attend that school. So you can find out more information to see if your college is on that list. Next up, we're going to show you ways that you can dramatically reduce your student loan payment or possibly eliminate it altogether with the new SAVE program that the Biden administration rolled out alongside their plan for student loan forgiveness. So let's get into it. Now, in addition to efforts around student loan cancellation, there's also a brand new program that can dramatically reduce your monthly student loan payment and possibly even eliminate it altogether. It's called the SAVE program. After the Supreme Court overturned the original student loan forgiveness program, the Biden administration announced the SAVE program alongside its efforts to continue to pursue student loan cancellation. And the SAVE program is a new income-driven repayment program. This is not like the old income-driven repayment programs that you might have been on or might have been familiar with before the student loan payment pause. With the SAVE program, the Biden administration made some pretty big changes. One of those biggest changes is that under the SAVE program, income-driven repayment goes from 10% of discretionary income down to 5% of discretionary income. So a lot of people might see their student loan payments cut up to half under the SAVE program. Single borrowers who are on an income of $15 per hour or less won't have to make any student loan payments at all. And married borrowers in a household of 4 making less than $60,000 per year don't have to make payments either. Another major change under the SAVE program is that your loan balance will not grow over time. Because of high interest rates, a lot of borrowers took out loans, and despite making payments, their balance would grow or they just would not be able to make a dent into their principal. Under the SAVE program, the Department of Education will not charge interest that isn't covered by your monthly payment. The SAVE program also offers even earlier student loan cancellation than other income-driven repayment programs. Historically, under past income-driven repayment programs, you would have to make repayments up to 20 years before you saw forgiveness. Now, under the SAVE program, if your loan balance is less than $12,000, after 10 years of payments, the whole balance will be wiped. And for each additional $1,000 above that $12K, the Biden admin will add 1 year worth of repayments before the balance is wiped as well. So, for example, if a borrower's balance is about $14,000, they will see full student loan forgiveness after 12 years of repayments. And there is a maximum time frame. After 25 years of repayments, balances will also be forgiven. The great news about it is that any payments that you've made in the past can actually qualify you for SAVE right now. The SAVE program is brand new, but you can switch over into it. And if you've made 10 years worth of payments, then SAVE can help potentially forgive all of your student loan debt if that balance is under $12K right now. You can switch over to the SAVE program by going to studentaid.gov/save. Next up, we're going to talk about how you actually even make a student loan payment after 3 years of payment pauses. And don't think you're off the hook if you had auto pay set up earlier. You might have to reset it up again. So we'll show you and get into all of those details right now. Now, student loan payments are due again on October 1st, but before we get into the logistics of that, there are 2 really important things that you need to know right off the bat. First is that for the first 12 months of student loan payments restarting, your credit will not get dinged if you miss a payment. I'm going to say that again. Your credit will not be harmed if you miss a payment in the first 12 months of student loan payments restarting. But the second point is that interest will accrue. So if you miss a payment, your credit will not be hurt, but your interest will accumulate. So those are the 2 most important things I think you need to know about student loan repayments starting on October 1st. My first piece of advice is, if you can help it, do not wait until the night before the payment deadline in order to start making your payment. We have 40 million borrowers in this country. If everyone's trying to process it the night before, we may run into some trouble. So just make sure that you try to take care of it as soon as possible. You might have to make a phone call even in order to figure out your processor. So make sure that you set it up as early as you can. Also, some of the government programs that can reduce your payment or even eliminate your payment altogether might take a few weeks to kick in. So try to get those applications in as soon as possible so that you don't have to deal with a higher payment on October 1st. If you have questions about what those programs look like, refer to one of the earlier videos in this series. So the first thing that you need to do in trying to make your student loan payment is figuring out who you actually have to make a payment to. Now, many people had their loan servicers changed during COVID, and you might be aware of it, you might have gotten an email about it, but you might not be aware of it. So the first thing to do is to look it up. To do that, go to studentaid.gov and click on Restarting Payments. Then scroll down and click on Login to find your servicer. If for any reason the student aid website doesn't work for you or isn't helping you find your processor, you can actually make a phone call. And that number is, I'm gonna look it up, 1-800-433-3243. So call that hotline if the website is not giving you information on your servicer. Now, regardless of whether your lender has changed or not, also make sure that you update your contact information. It's been 3 years, so your email, your address, or your phone number might have changed. Make sure you update that so that you can get the latest information around your student loans. Next up is that once you are logged into your account on your servicer's website, you may have the option, or you do have the option, to sign up for auto pay. And if you are able to spring for auto pay, you should know that you can receive up to a 0.25% interest rate reduction if your auto pay is activated and signed up. And every little bit counts. So it's a good piece of information to know. And once you've done all that, you'll be set to make your first payment. So to recap, the big 3 steps in making your first payment is 1, go to studentaid.gov to identify your loan processor. 2, update your contact information and make sure that it's all up to date. And the third is, if you can, sign up for auto pay because you can save a little bit of money that way. All right, and that's all on payments. Now let's just talk about what happens if something goes wrong with your servicer and how to report it. Now on October 1st, unfortunately, more than 40 million student loan borrowers are going to have to restart payments in some form or another, especially if you haven't gotten the cancellation that we discussed earlier. And what that means is that student loan processors are bound to either make mistakes or break rules as those payments restart. And we think it's really important for you to know how to advocate for yourself and how to document when something goes wrong, because it could help you down the line. So what do you do if you think that your student loan provider is either messing up or doing something wrong? My first piece of advice is paper trail, paper trail, paper trail. Make sure that you engage your student loan processor and make sure you send them written correspondence. Could be email, but just make sure that it's documented. If escalating your written complaint to your loan provider doesn't yield you any results, then you can escalate to the Department of Education. Federal student loan borrowers can submit a complaint at studentaid.gov/feedback-center. Now, if that doesn't work, then you can escalate again to the Federal Student Aid Ombudsman Group. And then finally, your next step is to get outside help if that doesn't work. Your Attorney General's office, your state Consumer Protection Office, and your member of Congress are all capable of escalating complaints. In New York, the state's Department of Financial Services is overseeing loan providers, and you can file a complaint online with them or contact their hotline. And hopefully that's all you need to know about the ins and outs, about the logistics of student loan repayments, the politics of it. And if you want to get involved in this fight, you can either come to us in our website, ocasio-cortez.com, or you can sign up with advocacy organizations like Debt Collective and more. And with that, we're going to keep organizing and keep fighting until student loans are forgiven in the United States. See ya.